And welcome everybody to the 12 o'clock show with Mayor Joe. Having a good time because we don't have a guest today, unfortunately. Our guest had to cancel, so we're going to try and reschedule. That being said, there is a lot of information to go over today. So if you've got some questions, please drop it in the chat. We'll get to them as we kind of go through. But we're going to start off right off the top. I actually had two cool things happen with the school district recently. Earlier today, I participated in what is known as Shark Tank, and it's exactly what it sounds like. These are with sixth grade students that came up with a business idea and they pitched it to myself and other distinguished guests and administrators at Wagner Road Junior High. And today, apparently, we went up with the one that was all about food. So we had healthy shakes that were made of, instead of ice cream, they had some yogurt and some other fruit and things like that. We also had Dubai chocolate was another one. And to continue on with the theme, there was one about French fries and chips. But what was really cool is each of them in their own way had to come up with a lot of everything. They had to come up with their slogan, their jingle, they had to come up with a budget, they had to come up with what their profit margin was. All of these other things that are incredibly cool that I don't think our community really realizes how involved all of this stuff is. Now, the reason why they're doing it at this time of the year is because state testing, which is stupid, is now over. So they have the opportunity to actually do things that are practical in real life. So I was really appreciative to go out there today. I did not get a chance to stay too long. I had the one class, but I know they're doing it all day. So shout out to the Wagner Road Junior High for that one. Also like to shout out to the 8th graders at Wagner Road Junior High. These individuals came to Reynoldsburg City Hall on Friday last week. These are the students that were not able to make it onto the Washington, D.C. field trip. So they got a tour of the police department, City Hall, and then we also did some things outside with Parks and Rec. But members of the classes were actually invited to be members of City Council, and they debated the great chicken topic. Yes, indeed, they actually did debate the pros and cons of chickens. Now, we didn't get nearly as in-depth as we could, but it was interesting because all of the questions that the students were asking as members of council were very similar to questions that actual members of council asked. Again, another real-life example of what some cool things that our students are doing all the way throughout. So if you haven't had a chance to check out what some of the kids are doing, ask around, look at some of the social media and things like that. They're doing some good things. You may also be aware that this is one of those wonderful times of the year where the school district and the teachers union are in the middle of negotiations. So I know there was a social media post about that. And for those of us that remember when the schools went on strike in 2014, brings back a lot of memories, not a lot of good ones. But I'm here to tell you, based on what I perceive as going on, what was going on in 2014 was a completely different thing. That was a systematic thing. That was structured by some of the top levels in the state, trying to make an example of Reynoldsburg City Schools and an educational philosophy that has failed. This is really about the grander situation of what Reynoldsburg school teachers should be compensated for based on the time and the effort that they give, as well as the restrictions and the unconstitutional funded mandates that the state continues to put down on the city of Reynoldsburg. We were talking about this at the town hall, and one of the questions came up about the school district. And I said, right now, if Reynoldsburg City Schools was actually adequately funded the way that it is supposed to be, they would be getting an additional $35 million in funding. And if that's the case, you're probably not having a lot of the questions that we've had this past year about what's been cut and what not. But needless to say, it's concerning, but at the same time, we understand that this is negotiations. This is what they do. The school district is going to do the best job that they can to make sure that they're fair and maximize the dollar amount that they can for the taxpayers to get the biggest bang for the buck. And at the same time, the teachers are going to advocate for an increased pay and work environment all the way throughout, just as much as they should. Strikes are not as rare as they were back in 2014. That being said, they're still rare, and we're not there yet, but at this time of the year, just kind of keep everybody in mind and just hope that they can figure this out to come to an agreement that is mutually beneficial. And remembering, of course, everybody's favorite thing about compromise, probably not going to be happy about everything, but at least that they can get a deal in there. So fingers crossed for the school district. In the meantime, we've got some other things going on. The Reynoldsburg Police Department and social media have kind of had some fun things going on. There was an incident about 2 weeks ago, and this was something that we've started to see, and you may have seen it on local news. They're called teen takeovers, and what ends up happening is a facility, an event space, or something similar to that is allowing large numbers of kids to come in, or large numbers of kids just go, and then some chaos ensues. So a few Fridays ago, there was an incident at a location off of Bryce Road that really wasn't affiliated with members of the Reynoldsburg community. There were people from outside the community that came into a particular location. And this is where I want to give kudos to a couple of our police officers. Large crowd, 200 plus kids. Our officers are there, some Columbus officers are there. Some young child, 14 years old, had a firearm, pulled the trigger, shot somebody in the arm. The kid was running away at one point in time. Our officers are on the scene. The scary thing is this could have been more than one shot going into the crowd. But what our officers did is what almost every officer does in almost every single circumstance. They put themselves in harm's way. They tracked this kid down. They got the kid, got the gun away from him. His life was saved. No one else's life was injured. Nobody died. And nobody on social media or nobody in the media, I don't want to say cared, but paid attention to it because cops did what they were supposed to do. They protected and served our entire community. So I want to shout out to the cops that are there. I know they don't like it when names are put out there. But to be honest, this is not the first time this has happened in the last couple of weeks. This is actually the second time that I can think of in just the last 10 days where police officers from Reynoldsburg were confronted with someone with a firearm, and things could have gone a completely different direction, but they did not. And that is because our officers are incredibly well trained. They know what it takes, and they made sure that people's lives are saved. And that's the story that should be remembered about it. At the same time, I did find out that the young kid that had the gun, that was a stolen gun recovered from the driver's seat of a car that was broken into in Reynoldsburg about 3 weeks ago. So I've said this before, and I'll say it again. A lot of the guns that are out there are guns that are stolen because people do not put their guns in a place that is safe and secure. So we will be taking steps with that, probably not next week, but the week after. We're going to talk about what it means to be a historic safe community. I hope that residents understand that they shouldn't be leaving their guns unsecured because that's the first place that goes. And in this particular case, the gun that was stolen was used in a shooting that shot another kid in the arm. This is as real as it gets. And I'm restricted by the state of Ohio from doing anything about it. As a matter of fact, today, the big issue has been trying to figure out how we can acquire gun safes to provide some protection for those that actually want to responsibly take care of their guns. And believe it or not, it's been not the easiest thing in the world. You would think it wouldn't be too difficult to get gun safes, but it is. But we're going to get them, and we're going to try and do all that the law will allow us to do to make sure that our community is as safe as possible. With that, other questions that come up, Neil Whitman, board member from Reynoldsburg City Schools, sent in a question today, and I'm going to go ahead and read his entire statement. You've stated that this is about flock cameras away. Maybe I'll just go over flock cameras first. So if you don't know what flock cameras are, it's been in the news lately, and it's becoming more of a pronounced thing, that a majority of communities in the country, and specifically in the state of Ohio, participate in a program called flock cameras. You may have seen them at various locations throughout the city. Some of them are city-controlled, others are from private businesses, and some of them are from the school district that Mr. Whitman is a board member of. What they do is, as cars drive by, the cameras in the flock cameras actually take a picture of the license plate of the car. If that license plate is registered to someone that has an outstanding warrant, if it is something where it has been a reported stolen car, the Reynoldsburg Police Department is notified, cops go out and try to recover the car, find the bad guy, whichever the case may be. And there are other circumstances as well. But that's what flock is. The data is typically stored for about 30 days unless it's something specific to a court case that may come up, in which case that's stored separately. After the 30 days, it's gone. Very few people in Reynoldsburg Police Department have access to a lot of that stuff unless it's for official police business. So a couple of people have had some questions about it, and we've been using it, I think, since 2023, 2022. So the question is here that Neil Whitman has brought in and said, you've stated the data gathered by flock cameras in Reynoldsburg is available only to RPD, who do not share it with federal agents. That is true. We do not have it. We actually have to have permission or give permission for federal agencies to come in and actually access our database without a warrant, and we have chosen not to do that. But I'm also hearing news stories about unauthorized access to flock, whether by hackers or individual police officers stalking ex-girlfriends or doing a favor for a buddy in ICE, or completely unidentifiable entity that logs on to show access Flock's data, which they're able to do because of unsecured security features. My response to that is, are there bad actors out in the world? Yeah, there are. Can certain things happen? Yeah, they can be. Are they happening in Reynoldsburg? Not to the best of our knowledge. Everybody that goes into our system that has to have a very legitimate legal authorization to do so. They have to be looking for something specific. It has to be about related to a criminal activity that they've responded to, or a report about a stolen car that they're looking for a car that may be a threat, that whoever's registered is a threat to it. As far as the hackability of things, I've not seen any definitive data on that. To be fair, Flock does not release that data. But at the same time, this is not like the Kia situation where all of a sudden anybody could watch a YouTube video and hack into it. I'm sure there are people that are much more computer savvy that might have the opportunity to do that. But at the same time, I've not seen any actual data about it. I have seen an article that was shared with me by a couple of residents about Flock cameras being used to observe a school. You may notice that there are some Flock cameras at school, and you can ask board member Whitman about this. He'll be on the show next week, where the cameras are pointed and what they look at and things of that nature. Again, any individual thing is there. As far as ICE is concerned, that's a no-go for us. Our officers are busy doing other things, and to the best of my knowledge, ICE has never actually requested to have any data or access to our services with that. So that's that one. So I'm going to continue on here. So the question is, how can we be confident that this is not going on in with the city's Flock data? So one is we have our officers that actually put those safeguards on there. There is a data center with it that is called basically the transparency portal that allows us to see who's accessing, what's being accessed, where it's being sent to, and things of all that nature. And it is constrained by us to make sure that they can only go to the route that we want. Our audits ever done to see who's been accessing the data consistently, much like our LEADS program when we're looking at some other things. And second, with the vastly more powerful AI that exists now and increasing federal and state pressure to local entities to allow federal or state access to their data, has there been serious conversation about whether the benefits are worth the cost? Yeah, we actually have had those on a number of occasions. We were probably the third community in Central Ohio to have Flock cameras. I think Upper Arlington and maybe New Albany were there just before us or just at the same time that we were. And so we're always evaluating everything. If laws change and the federal government is granted unfettered access to Flock camera, we will have conversations about whether or not we're going to allow that to continue, because I do not believe that that's in the best interest of the residents of Reynoldsburg, regardless of circumstance. As far as what the worth of it, everything is, says, in other words, not an anecdotal level of stolen cars recovered, a kidnapping that was stopped with the help for Flock data, but before and after comparisons of arrests made and things like that. Yeah, we are gathering that information to have that for you. It's just a question of what information does everybody want with it. There are going to be some people that don't care about Flock camera whatsoever, that are going to be very happy that it's out there because they've had stolen cars recovered, they found Alzheimer's patients in the city of Reynoldsburg. We know that those people, that there was a hit and run earlier this year where the body was hit and run over by multiple cars. Those cars were found by Flock camera. So there are benefits to it, but the question then becomes on the other side of it is, you know, the comment that was made is actually kind of paraphrasing a quote from Benjamin Franklin about whether or not, you know, to sacrificing freedom for security, you deserve neither of it, and that is a legitimate claim. So those are things that we're going to continue to have under investigation, and we're going to talk about it, and council is going to make the ultimate decision about it at that point in time. Right now, I do not feel that the costs outweigh the good of the system, but that could change in a heartbeat. That could change with a stroke of a pen from whether it be council, whether it be the state government, whether it be the federal government. But right now, what we're getting out of Flock camera is typically viewed as one of the more valuable tools. I know there are questions about the Fourth Amendment. The reality is these cameras are on public property, and it's monitoring people on taxpayer-funded roads all the way throughout. And while a couple of Supreme Court cases have been listed as to maybe put the questionable nature of this in there, after talking with the city attorney and a couple of neighboring communities, as of right now, the law does not interpret it that way. Again, could that change if lawsuits are brought out? Absolutely, it could. So that's that. The one thing that does concern me overall is the AI and the data and where that goes. So we are going to be meeting with Flock about what data goes from their things, how much access they have to it, and then what do they do with that data in terms of those restrictive things. If it is found out that it's going to an area that the city does not approve of or does not feel appropriate, meeting the goals that we're standing for, then we may move in a completely different direction. Our contract, I believe, expires at the end of this year, so that's going to be something that we're going to work with all the way across, including possibly future legislation to continue to put strengthening guardrails all the way throughout. So if you have any questions about that, feel free. I'd love to have a conversation with you because it's a pretty heavy conversation all the way across. And it does impact a lot of different things. And it's not anything that everybody's going to agree with, but it certainly is a topic for conversation. Any questions so far?
Yep, we have one.
Okay.
Does Reynoldsburg plan to adapt the new drones for speeding tickets?
No, that would actually fall under the same thing as a red light camera system. Those are deemed unconstitutional because you can't confront your accuser. Even if you're having a drone pilot do it, that's not going to be the case. The drones are not going to be used for that. I really just wish people would stop speeding as much as they do, but unfortunately, no, that's not going to happen. Anything else?
Nope.
All right, so we'll move on. If you actually want to talk to or even say thank you to some of our police officers, including some of the ones that I mentioned earlier, there's an event on Thursday, June 4th from 9 to 11 at the Starbucks at Target on 256. Sometimes I may think some of our officers just want to go to Target, but hey, who doesn't? But they're going to be there for a couple of hours at Starbucks drinking coffee, and you can have conversations with them about their job, about some of the things that we talked about, things like that. So I appreciate if you want to go out there. We'll probably stop by at some point in time just because who doesn't like a good Target run, but go ahead and talk to them about there. Also got another question from a resident. They did not state their name, but this was sent to me about a week ago. It says, when will you keep your streets clean? After an innocent person is hurt or killed. This particular person has been and continues to be a violent problem for Main Street, Reynoldsburg. The police know he is an issue. He has been charged multiple times for aggravated menacing and or assault, and is allowed to take up residence on Main Street benches meant for law-abiding, tax-paying citizens. When do you intend on getting the person the help they need? When are you intending to protect the rights of those doing nothing wrong? Main Street is for community. It is not a free hostile for a violent, mentally ill, correct? I was told I'd be contacted police regarding this criminal. I'm still waiting for a call. That email did go out, by the way. It is indicative of the amount of care going into law enforcement in Reynoldsburg. I wish to remain anonymous, but this issue needs a prompt resolution. When somebody can tell me what law this particular individual has broken that would require us to arrest him and remove him from things, please do so. Being homeless is not against the law in Reynoldsburg. So other communities have had that. It's probably never going to happen here. It certainly won't happen while I'm mayor, nor am I going to change the architecture of our streets to prevent people that have no homes from issues. The individual in question has had issues. We have a social worker that has worked with them on a number of occasions trying to offer help. But for those that have actually looked into the issues of homelessness, there comes two different camps. There are some that are homeless because of life circumstance, loss of a job, medical issue, any number of things that are there. Other circumstances are related to drug and alcohol or mental health issues. This certainly falls into that latter category. And the state of Ohio does not allow for us to go ahead and put somebody in incarceration for that particular thing, especially when there's nothing there for criminal activity. The individual was arrested, did get put into a psychiatric center for some time, and then was released when they were there. This is a system that goes beyond what any one particular city can do. This is something that the entire state of Ohio needs to do, especially when you look at the rising cost of pretty much everything, as well as the continued housing crisis in central Ohio that's going to lead to it. Homelessness is an issue in every community. Most of us don't see it. It just happens to be that this particular case we've seen. And unfortunately, again, unless this person actually does break the law to require it, it's there. Police is not going to kidnap somebody and put them in jail just because they're homeless. I would recommend that if you have concerns about this, to come work with us and find some other solutions and options for the homeless community in Reynoldsburg. But the real thing that I would appreciate you doing, and anyone out there who's watching, is a very simple thing. It is easier to keep somebody in a home than if they become homeless and need to get back in. So if you know your neighbors are struggling, if you know your friends are, or if you are, please reach out to the city, reach out to some other local organizations. There are programs out there to help keep you in your home, even if it's dire financial situations, because it is easier to keep you in your current home, your current apartment, things of that nature, than it is to find and rehouse you from somewhere else. That's where the goal has to be, in addition to actually having a fair and equitable system for housing all the way throughout. So those are a couple of the comments that I wanted to bring up with everything. With that, I'm going to go ahead and go up to the even more fun topic, and unfortunately it's raining today because not a lot of work is going to get done on Wagner Road. Work that has started this week, they finished the entire asphalt multi-purpose path yesterday. So from Main Street all the way to Priestley, you now can walk on the sidewalk or you can walk on the multi-purpose path. It is good to go. As a matter of fact, yesterday when I was driving home, saw people on both sides walking up and down the street with it. So that was a cool thing to see. If it's not raining, that's the next thing that's going to happen, is they're going to put in the other curbs for some of the crosswalks in as soon as it stops raining, probably tomorrow at this point. Once those are cured, probably about 10 days, which puts us really just after Memorial Day, they will put the asphalt on what is right now the westbound side, and then they'll go ahead and finish that off. Then they'll move over to the eastbound side, put all the lane markings in, and then Wagner Road Phase 1 is going to be complete. So we're probably looking about 2 to 3 weeks, give or take weather. 2 weeks if we have really good stretch of weather, maybe 3 weeks if it's a little bit bad. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. Wagner Road Phase 2. We are going to have a lot more information on about this coming out next week. We did have some conversations with our contractor. The work as of right now is scheduled to start on June 1. However, that is not guaranteed just yet. They're wanting to make sure that they have the equipment in that they need for the early work starting on that day. So the project will start as early as June 1, maybe a couple of days after. The project will take 550 days, which puts us to roughly December 3rd of 2027. They're going to be working from 7 a.m. to about 5 p.m. Monday through Thursday, 7 to 3 on Fridays. And Saturdays is going to be used as a makeup day if there's rain or other things that are out there. This will all be on our website once we have that official guaranteed first day. The big highlights for the first little bit including gas line work, water line work, and the big one for us are the culverts. There are 6 culverts in Phase 2. 3 of them are major big culverts, and others are 3 minor culverts. So there will probably be some lane closures at certain points of time over the summer. We're going to try and focus in on the area to make sure that Wagner Road Junior High and Elementary School have access all the way out. But all of that is going to be on our website once we have everything kind of tied up and have a very specific start date. Should hopefully have that by the end of this week. Any questions on Wagner 1, Wagner 2?
No, but we do have a couple questions.
Sure, let's go for it.
First one is, when will the right turn lane from Graham into Maine be opened?
Once Wagner Road is opened up, because while I love that most of us could probably understand the ability to not drive into a sign that says road closed, not always going to be the case, but hopefully just a few more weeks on that.
And then the next one is, what is the act for Saturday at the Tomato Festival this year?
Oh, I'll get to that in a little bit.
All right, that's it.
All right. So got some other things. Taylor Road repaving on Taylor Road from basically Broad Street to the AEP substation was supposed to start this week. I did not get a chance to see if they got it done yesterday, and obviously today with the rain, probably not. So I don't think it has been, but it's going to once the weather kind of clears up for that. Some cool programs coming up for everybody. One, we've got Intro to Archery, so you can learn how to ready, aim, and fun with some archery. It's for beginners only. These are not compound bows, and we're not going stalking for anything. But it's going to be at Spangler Field from 3 to 5 p.m. on Saturday, June 6th, Sunday, July 12th, Saturday, August 1st, and Sunday, August 2nd. If you're interested in that, check it out on Parks and Rec's website. It's a lot of fun. It's a cool thing to do. Throw have some targets out there and get you some basic ideas for new hobbies. We also have Nature Adventure Day on Sunday, May 31st from 1 to 4 p.m. It's going to be about some tree climbing. There's going to be some nature activities, and that's going to be at the Livingston House, so that's a lot of fun. And then I think in just a couple of days, K-pop dance night on the 22nd. So if you're looking for something to do on Friday night, this may be for you. We also have Reynoldsburg, the Pace Walks. These are for opportunities to talk and discuss with health professionals from The Ohio State University about some cancer research and things of that nature. That'll be tomorrow night and the 28th at Huber Park. It's going to start about 6 to 7:30. You can learn how to reduce your risk of cancer. And for those of you that like your t-shirts, this is your opportunity to get one. So you have that going on as well. Some green tomato information updated. Single-use plastic bag information for the month of April. 173 pounds of those single-use plastics. And our composting is doing really well. April, again, we're about 3,082 pounds worth of composting in there. If you're interested in participating in the food composting program, come down to City Hall. We have some buckets available for you. Basically, you take your food waste, you put it in a bucket, and when it gets to a certain point that you can't handle the smell or you're ready to take it to Spangler Park, you can drop it into the receptacles at that location. Some cool things coming up development-wise. You will notice on the empty field on Main Street next to the Central Ohio Primary Care, you're going to be seeing a sign go out. They are in the process of getting ready to start leasing up some of the businesses that will be coming into that location. If you remember, the Rep Field House is going to be the athletic facilities behind in the back portion of everything, and then the restaurant and retail up in the front. I know they've got the restaurant, and I think they've got one of the retail, but they're looking for a couple of other ones. But work on that is going to start relatively soon. Also got some odd things. I know I tend to go after the state of Ohio a lot in a lot of things, and this is another chance for me to do so. This is something that has just come into play over the last couple of weeks. Passed in last year's budget and then modified recently to go into effect in March of this year, is a restriction on municipalities from discussing any property or any development that there could be tax incentives to be used for. So that means if anyone is coming into the city of Reynoldsburg and they say, hey, I'm going to build X, but I'm looking for a tax abatement of any nature, if I'm looking for any TIF incentivization whatsoever, municipalities are no longer allowed to talk about it. They are not part of the public record anymore. They are exempt from that. The only time that that becomes public is after the deal is signed. It is a gross overreach by the state of Ohio on this particular part, but as of right now, we have to follow the law. So when we do talk about future development that comes up in other locations, there's only going to be so many things that we can say based on this new law. For those of you that want to take a closer look, it's the Ohio Revised Code, section 9.66, subparagraph D, I think is what's there. But you can go ahead and check that out. It sucks, it's not right, and it shouldn't happen. But the odd thing about this is there's actually, if cities violate this, there's actually the potential for criminal prosecution. So we can't fund our schools, but we can go ahead and make sure that, you know, if people are talking about massive incentive deals that actually take funding away from schools and other services, we can't talk about that. So good job, state of Ohio, on that one yet again. Don't worry, you have the chance to change all that with the elections this November. Any questions, comments, anything like that?
Nope.
All right. Other events coming up. This is Memorial Day weekend, and the city of Reynoldsburg will be participating at the Cedar Cemetery Memorial Day ceremony at 10 a.m. Cedar Cemetery is the one right behind BB Bop on 256. It's right behind that area. This is where we have some of our American Revolutionary War survivors or victims, as well as Civil War soldiers as well, and some of the founders of the area of Reynoldsburg. For more of that, you can check out what Mary Turner Stutes has on that one. But that will be this Monday at 10 a.m. For those of you that are interested, Truro Township has their ceremony at 9:30 a.m. at Silent Home Cemetery. That's kind of in between Lancaster and Jackson, as it kind of comes to a point in the Truro Township area. We had that great town hall a couple weeks ago. I do have a date for town hall number 2. That will be July 23rd at 6:30 p.m. We'll get more information out there as we get a little bit closer, but it'll be very similar to the last one, unless there's other topics that are more timely. We also are going to be starting up our mayor walk-in talks again. A lot of people are saying, hey, yeah, we want you to do this again. So we went around and we kind of chose some of the locations based on some traffic and road complaints. We wanted to make sure that at least all the wards were represented and things of that nature. So ward members have been invited, as well as the council members at large, as well as RPD has been, if they're available to. June 25th will be our first one. That'll be Matterhorn and Tanya Terrace, and we'll kind of go in a loop in that area. Basically, we'll put a big sign message board out there. We'll meet at that message board, and then we'll walk around in an area where I'll just pick up litter and we'll answer questions about what's going on in the city. So it's kind of like a walk and talk 12 o'clock show without the camera. So no cameras there. We won't have any. So we've got that. We've also got July 16th, August 11th, and September 10th in various areas around the city. So if you're interested in those things, check that out. Any questions?
Nope.
All right, we had that one question before, so I'm going to get to that in a minute because I know everybody's excited about it. We have our 2 concerts on the lawn this June. June 7th, we have the Grateful Dead Revival Band. That one's coming up pretty quick. And then at the end of the month, June 28th, we have the Reynoldsburg Community Band. These concerts at the lawn are at the Livingston House. It's always a lot of fun. There's parking either at the business center behind, the parking lot at Livingston itself. You can park at the community church down the road and take the pathway. But it's a lot of fun. The admission is free, so you get to go and enjoy that. For those of you that are deadheads, I'm sure that'll be a good thing. And then the community band will probably be pumping up and getting ready for America 250 and the 4th of July. We also have Pride on June 13th. The big headlining act is Mojo Flow, so that's going to be a fun one. And Juneteenth on June 20th, it's going to be Sensation will be our musical act at that point in time. And then our food truck festival is Friday, June 26th at Silver Springs. It is a Fleetwood Mac tribute band, so that's going to be a lot of fun. And those are always, all of these different things are fun. June is a lot, our events team has been working on this really since the end of last season when the events were done in early December. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We're fingers crossed for great weather all the way across. And I think you have another week, just a little bit left to register for the Tomato Festival pageants, so check that out. As we know, Thursday for the Tomato Festival, we have Seven Bridges, which is the Eagles tribute band. Friday, as you saw with the amazing dancing that went on with the Drew Hill announcement. And now we do finally get to talk about Saturday and who our big act is on Saturday to close out this year's Tomato Festival. They're coming to us fresh off their Sonic Temple appearance. The band Everclear will be here. They're coming here to Reynoldsburg, and then they're going to slum it and go out to Vegas for some of their residency out there. But they'll be here. Again, the band Everclear on Saturday that night. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think that's the 15th, August 15th on that Saturday night. So share it wide and pride all the way across. If you're interested in those reserved seating areas, those will become available just after the 4th of July. We're working on the timeline for that, but we'll keep you informed. For those of you that aren't familiar with the reserved area, that's kind of up by the senior center where you have a table. There'll be some food there, reserved seating, and kind of gives you an overview of the concert area. So it's always a lot of fun. So any questions, anything else that I have not covered?
Nope.
All right, so we've got a couple of cool things coming up. One thing that I did want to recognize, again, there is a proclamation. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but May is actually Jewish Heritage Month, so the United Jewish American Heritage Month. So we have signed this proclamation effective for the month of May for the Jewish proclamation, so we have that there. So thank you to all the contributions of the Jewish community, not only to Reynoldsburg, but the Central Ohio and the United States as well. With the rise of anti-Semitism out there, it's good to recognize our friends and neighbors and our community and make sure that we are all safe. So that's always a good thing. Next week, we're going to talk about a fun lineup. We've got Franklin County Auditor Michael Stinziano here to talk about property taxes. Yeah, I know you're all thrilled about that, but this is actually going to be a good thing because we need to hear about it from him, about the process of what property taxes are, what the timeline is. And we're also going to have at least one member of the Reynoldsburg City School Group in here. Board member Neil Whitman is going to be attending with us. I'm pretty sure that with property taxes, the auditor, school board member, and myself pretty much guess where that conversation is going to go. So if you've got questions about how all of this stuff is broken out, this would be a great time. Really looking forward to the auditor coming out here, and of course my good friend Neil Whitman to talk about all things on the board. With that, unless there are any last second questions.
We do have one.
Good, go for it.
A resident would like to know where they could reach out to you about issues they are experiencing with code enforcement.
Absolutely easy one. You can just email me or you can message the city and just drop an email address at that point and we can get to you as well. So that's an easy one. If there are no other questions, I want everybody to stay safe, stay respectful. Please remember a little bit this weekend is Memorial Day to remember those that have fallen for our freedoms and enjoy that day off. Hopefully the weather will be cooperative. And as for the rest of you, again, stay safe, stay respectful, and please, please, please put your shopping carts away. See Auditor Stenziano and Board Member Whitman and who knows who else next week. Thanks, everybody. We'll see ya.